Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Staniforth-Seamster, and I am the Children's Ministry Coordinator at Whitewater Area Regional Ministry. It is Sunday, and I am here to share the children's message with everyone. Well, let's start how we do, checking in. I'm going to invite you to check in with your family or friends or whoever you're watching with, even just with yourself and God. I'll tell you that I'm not quite sure where I'm at today. There are some good things going on in my family, in my life. I officially am done with seminary, which I shared last week, feels really good. But last night, as a nation, we got the news that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And if you don't know, she was a Supreme Court justice, second woman on the Supreme Court, and a real champion for equality. And in a country that feels kind of divided right now, this seems to add to that feeling of division for me. So I guess I'm a little bit all over the place today. But however you're feeling, it's important that you share those feelings with the people around you so that they can help and support you. In today's gospel story, we hear Jesus talking. And as we know, Jesus often talks in stories. So people will ask a question and he will answer with a story. And the story is, he's talking about the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of God like? What is the kingdom of heaven like? He says it's like a wealthy landowner, someone who has a great big farm, who needs laborers. And so he goes to the group of people who don't have jobs, who are looking for day work. And he says to a group of them, come work for me and I'll pay you a day's wage, a silver coin. So at the start of the day, those people come and work. But then at noon, he goes back. The landowner goes back and sees more people waiting and says, come work for me and I'll pay you a day's wage. So they come at noon. And then later in the day, he does the same thing and more people come. So when it's time to pay everyone, he has them line up from those who got there at the very end, that's the start of the line, to those who got there at the very beginning, that's the end of the line. And he pays them what he has promised, a silver coin, a day's wage. But the people who were there at noon and the people who were there at the very beginning of the day see that those people who came at the end are getting the same amount that they were promised. So they think, well, certainly he's going to pay me more because I was here longer. And when they get the silver coin that they were promised, they're complaining. And the landowner points out to them that everyone received the same thing. The promise was the same for every single person, and they all received what was promised. So Jesus says, this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. Well, let's think about that in a more modern context. This is a children's message, so let's think about school classrooms. What if you were in a classroom? You were a student in a classroom and there were 21 students in your classroom. And the teacher said to all of you, okay, today, it's Monday morning at 8 in the morning, very first start of the week. I have a challenge for this class. I need all of you to memorize this list of the 50 states in alphabetical order. And if you can do that, if every single student can do that, by 3 p.m. on Friday, you will all get a prize. You'll all get a treat. That's pretty exciting, right? So the kids sit down and start learning. And as there are in most classrooms, we know that people learn at different speeds. But there's a group of about 7 kids who, by the end of the day Monday, has it memorized. They show the teacher, they know they're on the list to get the treat on Friday. So that's group A, the quick learners. No one's really surprised that they were able to learn the lesson this quickly. Then there's a middle group. Maybe this is group B, a group that needs a little more time to learn, but maybe by the end of the day Tuesday, they all know the states. So that's 14 of the 21 kids. And finally, that last group, by 2:45 on Friday, they have all mastered it as well. So when the teacher is walking around the classroom and she goes to the front and she says, well, good news, you've all memorized, which means the whole class gets treats. And so she begins with the people who were the very last to accomplish the task. And she gives them each 3 Hershey's Kisses. And she does that for every student all the way up to the very first person who had it memorized. But as she's doing this, the kids in that middle group and the kids in that first group are watching thinking, well, if those kids who figured it out today are getting 3 Hershey's Kisses, we should get 6. So they're disappointed when they only get 3. And they grumble and complain. And the teacher has to remind them, the goal was for everyone to learn, and I told you that you would all get a prize. The prize doesn't change depending on when you learned it. I can understand that. I wonder if you've ever felt that way. Maybe like you deserved a little more than someone else or a little less based on different things. But as we look at these stories, here's the story, but then I always like to look a little deeper and think about what happens. So thinking about the workers in the fields. Could you imagine spending the whole day working next to someone and not talking to them? Probably not. If you're out there harvesting, picking fruit, picking olives, doing whatever is needed, you're probably talking to the people around you. It helps the day go a little faster. So as you're talking, you're learning their story. You're hearing about their family, their needs, right? And so they're not just another worker. They're a person and maybe a friend. So at the end of the day, when one of you is complaining that they deserve more than the other, that could really hurt feelings, right? Because really, doesn't everyone deserve to have food to eat and a place to sleep? If we're thinking about the school, I wonder what happens throughout the week to help that last group memorize those 50 states. Maybe the 14 kids who've already memorized go to the 7 who haven't on Wednesday or Thursday and say, do you need help? What's stopping you? And maybe some of the kids say, you know, I have a hard time reading, but if you could read it to me, when I listen to things, that's how I learn. So maybe some of the kids sit down and listen while their classmates read to them. And then they're able to succeed because their classmates have helped them. Maybe someone else says, you know, I have 5 brothers and sisters at my house. I don't have a quiet place to study. That's my problem. And so another student says, well, I'm an only child. Come to my house. Study with me. It's quiet there. And so they help that child succeed. Maybe there are other children who say, I get free lunch and free breakfast at school, but my family doesn't have enough food for me to have dinner. So when I come to school in the morning and eat breakfast, I'm still hungry. And when I'm hungry, I can't learn. And in hearing that, maybe other students bring sack dinners for this child to take home. Think about that. It's not just the goal of accomplishing the task. It's about how we work together to make sure that the work gets done. So then, if you were in that last group and you struggled and were helped to learn your lesson, to get that prize, think of how good that would feel to accomplish that. That would probably be very exciting. And how would you feel when you hear the people, the quick learners, that first group, that second group, complaining, saying that they deserve more than you because they learned it first? That would really hurt my feelings. It would make me think, I finally achieved something that you achieve easily, and I achieved it with help. And now you think you deserve more than me because you didn't struggle. You think you're better than me. These stories are a glimpse into the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of God like? What is the kingdom of heaven like? It's a place where there is enough for everyone to have enough. For everyone to have what they need, and for everyone's needs to be equal. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there, or where you come from, or if you get in 30 seconds before the door closes. There's enough for you, and you are wanted and welcome. So this week, as we go about our lives, let's look for those places where we might feel competitive with other people, where we might be judging ourselves on if we're better than them or worse than them. Do they have more than me? Do they have less than me? Instead, let's try to see ourselves how God sees us, as people who are welcome, as people who are loved, and as people who belong. And when we do that, when we try to see each other that way, I think we'll find that we are able to experience each other in new ways and to see God in one another. I wish you a wonderful week, and I invite you to check out our Wednesday Family Ministry Bible Study. This week we're talking about the Apostle Paul. Next week we'll be talking about our next witness, next person who loved God and loved God's people, and that is a woman named Lydia. Blessings. Have a wonderful week.